I'm actually going to be setting timers, but these are the 3 and only 3 5-stars, and this is fun. Of course, it has to be romance. I'm on a roll. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to my mid-year reading check-in, mid-year stats. Let's hop into it. This is going to be a quick fire. Every time I've filmed one of these videos in the past, I've sat down, I've spoken for about 35 to 40 minutes about all the books I've read so far this year, what my favourites, what were my least favourites, disappointing, most surprising, and just going through all my stats. Today, I do not have the time to sit down and ramble for 40 minutes. I'm in the middle of my Magical Hopathon, which is a month-long readathon, if you didn't know, surrounding around the idea of the Disney parks and resorts. It's never too late to join, so I'll leave the announcement video up above and down below if you're interested in joining. But it's a whole lot of fun, but I have a big TBR for this month, and right now I should be sitting down on a sofa and just not moving and reading as much as I physically can, but I still want to create content, so we're here. We're going to do a quick fire, rapid, mid-year check-in. I'm going to give myself a timer for every question that I'm about to answer. I got all these questions from Books and Lala, Kayla's video, but I know there's so many different kind of like questions out there, but these are the ones I've chosen to answer. Hopefully it gives you a broad kind of like overview of like my reading journey so far this year and all that fun stuff. So I think without further ado, because this is meant to be a quick fire, let's hop into the first question, which obviously is the biggest question of all. What is your favourite book you've read so far this year? I'm actually going to be setting timers, so bear with. I'm going to give myself a minute timer for every question. The best book I've read so far this year has to be either between Divine Rivals, which is my first 5-star of the year. I couldn't see it for a second. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams, or my very recent read, A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. All of these have just made me so happy and just really did knock my socks off with 5 stars. I don't rate many books 5 stars, but these are the 3 and only 3 5-stars that I've given so far this year. Obviously both of these have been romances, just so kind of like squealy, makes me really happy, just great romances. And I put this as a 5-star because I just wasn't expecting to love a fantasy so much, and this definitely does have a very big romance kind of plot element with a little bit of fantasy, which I think is why I enjoyed it so much. Okay, first question done. Yay. Okay, shush, you literally give me scarring memories of having to wake up for work, so you can shush. Now put these books back. Actually, no, we're in a rush. I'm just going to dump them to the side. Next question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far this year? And I would have to go with Wildfire by Hannah Grace, which is the second book in the Icebreaker Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace, the first one being Icebreaker. I gave the first one, Icebreaker, a 5-star when I read it for the first time last year. I've just recently read this one as an audiobook and I gave it a solid 4-star. I did really enjoy it. I just enjoyed this universe. I find it difficult with sequels because obviously I read a lot of romances, and yes, romance series are becoming more of a thing, like companion series, etc. But I don't really class them as direct sequels. So if I had to go for a direct sequel, the only kind of direct sequel I've read this year is Ruthless Vows and Finale by Stephanie Garber, and I would say that this one's a stronger like actual sequel. This finished off a series for me, really much enjoyed it, loved the ending. But in terms of like romance, this one made me happier than this one did just because it was a romance. So best sequel between these two. Shush. Okay, next question. This is fun. I like doing it a quick pace, quick fire, etc. Next question. Favourite reread I've had so far this year. Timer starting now. Favourite reread. Where is it? The only book I've reread so far this year is Heartbreak House Share by Emily Merrill, which was the first time I've reread it to tab it all up and make it part of my forever collection, which I'm very glad I finally did. This is a adult, kind of new adult, kind of self-discovery, self-love journey about a main character, Flick, who ends up moving to London after graduating uni and breaking up with her boyfriend to kind of pursue her journalist career, and her sister kind of makes her kind of realise she should do a 20s list so she can get like back out there and kind of rediscover herself after kind of losing the identity of university and having a boyfriend. And she starts this list and her editor gets wind of it, so she starts making a column in the magazine that she works for as part of this like 20s list that she's going on. Things like fake dating, big friendship, just kind of like discovering self. I absolutely love this book, so I'm so glad I finally managed to reread it and have it up. But this is the only reread I've done so far this year, so it definitely has to be my favourite. I reread it, of course, because it was a 5-star, and once again, it was a 5-star. Ah! Oh my god, I'm on a roll, I'm on a roll. Okay, next question is a genre you've been loving the most this year. Time is starting now. Of course, it has to be romance. Like, there is no other option. If we go to my spreadsheet, do we have time to go to my spreadsheet? Let's open Google Sheets, let's go to core pile. You can see by my graph, I'll put it up on screen as well, but you can see by my pie chart here, 45.2% of my genres I've read so far this year have been contemporary, which is equivalent to 19 of my books out of the 40 that I've read. So almost half have been romances, and obviously my second big top genre is contemporary at 31%, equaling 13 out of the 40 books I've read so far this year. I did want to kind of like discover a new genre of reading this year, whether that was fantasy, but my heart wants what it wants, and that is romance, and that's absolutely fine by me. And obviously it is summer right now, so my romance is definitely up on its peak. Maybe as we come into autumn and fall, winter, fantasy might become a bit more of a thing, so I was really enjoying some of these books that I was reading. But yeah, definitely romance, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm like out of breath. Oh, this is so much fun. I was going to give myself 30 seconds to answer these questions, but I'm glad I gave myself a minute. Next question. New releases you haven't read yet but want to. Timer, starting now. Okay, the two that I can think of off the top of my head is Hiding Him by Adam Hatton, which is on my Kindle. I pre-ordered it. It came out on July 2nd, so very recent new release. Very, very excited to read this one. Adam Hatton is a UK Disney content creator here on YouTube. Absolutely love him. And he's done a whole self-publishing journey to release his first YA LGBTQ boy meets boy romance. Very much for fans of Heartstopper. I'm very, very excited to read it. I don't really know what it's about. All I know is that Adam Hatton wrote it, so of course I'm going to support him and read that. And the other one that I'm excited to read is Daydream by Hannah Grace, which is the third and final book, I want to say, in the Maple Hills kind of like companion romance series. And the reason I'm so excited for this one is I think it follows Henry, which we have seen in previous Maple Hills books, so Icebreaker and Wildfire, and then a new character called Grace, I want to say. And Grace is very much like a really A-star student. Henry is not. He wants help, but they kind of like have a sticky situation on like the tutoring front. But Grace is very much into reading and books, and that is very much a trend I'm seeing at the minute in romance books. I feel like every book I'm currently reading at the minute has this sort of like a book theme, which is kind of crazy. I'm loving it, but they're making the books I read kind of like get really muddled in my head. So I might have to wait a little bit to read that one, so I don't kind of like get confused with the other romance books I've been reading recently. But very, very excited for that one nevertheless. Just over a minute on that one, so first kind of failure. I just messed up. Daydream isn't out yet. Daydream comes out. Daydream is the answer to the next question, which is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Daydream doesn't come out until August. The other book that I'm really excited to read that has just come out, once again, just like Hiding Him by Adam Hatton, I'm not going to put a timer on this one, is Love Story by Lindsay Kelk. Obviously this one came out 3 days ago on the 4th of July, and I actually met Lindsay Kelk on the day of release with Joanna Fletcher and Paige Toon. I have a whole video coming up about that on Tuesday, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. But once again, this is another, just like I was saying, this is another romance book kind of featuring our kind of like author book kind of world. There's so many of these out there at the moment, loving them, but it's definitely a trend I'm seeing, and maybe not loving so much because I'm such a romance reader. I don't want to have all my romances feel exactly the same, and that's kind of what they're feeling like at the minute. So I'm excited to read this one because it's Lindsay Kelk. I love Lindsay Kelk, but I'm going to wait a little while, just like with Daydream, to kind of like spread out these romance book shops, book owners, librarians, etc. out a little bit. Right, next question. Biggest disappointment you've had so far this year. Time is starting now. I've had a few that I've kind of like thought of. Eleanor Fonte is completely fine by Hail Honeymoon. I've been wanting to read that book for so long. When I finally got around to reading it this year, I just didn't get the hype. It wasn't a book for me. It's about this, it's like contemporary that follows this woman who's kind of like struggling with being really isolated. She doesn't really have many friends, and that's kind of like the main premise, and she goes through a lot of like obstacles and she starts to rediscover herself. I was like, oh my god, this book sounds ideal for me. But it just was an okay book. Didn't really love it, didn't really hate it. But the other kind of big disappointment for me, because I was so looking forward to it, the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I did rate this book 4 stars. It definitely kept me on edge, but in terms of like, I don't think I'll ever love a Holly Jackson book more than this trilogy. And I don't know if that's because I read this book during lockdown, it really connected me to the book community, and I just have like a really fond connection with this book, or whether Holly Jackson just can't actually beat writing her first ever trilogy, because that trilogy was like top tier gold, and I feel like ever since then her books just been like okay. So I did enjoy it, but it just was kind of like a disappointing book for me, because I really thought that I was going to love this book. Next question. I'm getting bad. I'm getting worse at sticking to the 1 minute timer, so let's see if we can do it for this one. Biggest surprise so far this year. Timer starting now. Biggest surprise. Where is it? Oh, I know where it is. I lent it to my mum. The Honeymoon by Kate Gray. I just wasn't expecting anything from this book. This is a thriller book. I got it when I was book shopping with Emily and Chloe when we went up to visit Chloe in the end of April. And I just got it from a charity shop for like £2.50. I wasn't expecting anything from it. And I ended up really, really enjoying it. I think the reason I enjoyed it so much is because I don't predominantly read thrillers. So therefore the typical plot twists and the typical endings and the typical like last moments and stuff just weren't really, I wasn't really expecting them because I don't read many thrillers. So for me, this book was just so much fun with all the plot twists and turns and kind of like where the story kind of ended up. This book basically follows, I have 15 seconds, 2 couples who go to Bali on their honeymoon, and one of the couples finds out someone has died, and it's kind of like just a thriller kind of mystery from then. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I definitely think that was probably my biggest surprise so far this year, just because I had no expectation about it whatsoever. Okay. Next one. New favourite author for 2024. I would have to say Sarah Adams. I've only read one of her books, Practice Makes Perfect, which was a 5-star. But the reason I'm saying new favourite author is because from the first like 20 pages, I knew this book was going to be a 5-star, and it just did not disappoint. And I'm so excited to read the rest of her kind of like back catalogue. I have When in Rome on my TBR for July, so I'm really hoping I can read this one, and these are part of the same kind of companion series, so I'm really hoping I can get to this one, and I'm predicting it's going to be another 5-star, so fingers crossed. Otherwise this question could be a little bit obsolete. But I just love how she writes her main characters. I just love her writing. They're so easy to read, they're so digestible, and I just had such a good time. It just made me smile from ear to ear. So definitely a new favourite author in Sarah Adams. I'm just hoping that the rest of her books live up to how much hype I had for Practice Makes Perfect. I'm actually 7 seconds to spare. Yes. Next question. A book that made me happy. I could just list all the books I've just mentioned. Like Wildfire made me really happy. Practice Makes Perfect made me really happy. A Novel Love Story made me really happy. But in terms of like a book I wasn't expecting to make me as happy as it did, I'm gonna have to go back to Divine Rivals, just because I obviously heard so many people talk about this book, and I very much thought it was going to be a fantasy, but the amount of romance this book had made me swoon and squeal for Iris and Rowan so much. I definitely think this book is heavily romance and very little fantasy, and I think that's why I loved it so much. And I read this book over a weekend where I didn't really have much time to read at all. I vlogged it all, so I'll link up above and down below for you guys if you want to go watch my like instant reactions to this book. But I just had no time to read that weekend, and all I wanted to do was delve back into this world and read from these characters' perspectives, because I just adored them so much. This book definitely made me very, very happy this year. Wish I could reread it for the first time. Another 3 seconds to spare. Yes. Next question. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. We're almost at the end as well. So the most beautiful book you've brought or received so far this year. Time is starting now. I'll definitely have to say, just having this duology matching makes me very, very happy. They're absolutely stunning covers, and I'm so glad the contents within them were just as good as the covers, because the covers are stunning. So in terms of books I've brought myself this year, I definitely think these two. But in terms of books I've been gifted this year, to go down onto my TBR trolley, Claire very kindly gifted me another fantasy duology, Dance of Thieves and Foul of Thieves by Mary A. Pearson, and these books are just absolutely stunning as well. So thank you very much, Claire, for adding these books to my physical TBR. I'm very, very excited to read them, but they're just absolutely stunning. I absolutely love them. I'm so excited to read them. And they are the same author as A Kiss of Deception series, which I absolutely love, so I have high hopes for these ones as well. But yeah, definitely in terms of like best beautiful covers, fantasy seems to be like winning at it this year, for sure. I'm coming, I'm coming. Ugh. Okay, we're on to the final 2 questions. This has been so much fun. The next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So basically, your main priorities. And my main priorities in terms of like books I'm really excited to read and I've just acquired them and I want to read them as soon as possible. Love Story by Lindsay Kelk, Firefly Lane by Christina Hanna, because I recently picked this up after hearing Sarah talk about it so much, and this book sounds ideal for me, about 2 girls who grow up together from like the 70s all the way up until like the noughties and how their friendship evolves over the decades. Sounds just like a piece of me. And then also I would love to obviously read When in Rome ASAP. So those are the books on my current physical TBR that I would love to read ASAP that I've only just acquired. And quickly, with 20 seconds to spare, I just need to get around to the rest of my 2024 TBR, which includes Careless by Christy Capes, Real Easy by Marie Stokowski, Friends and Strangers by Courtney something, I can't remember, J. Courtney Sullivan, I think. Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Weiser, If You Still Recognise Me by Cynthia So, and that's it. So I have 5 books left on my 2024 TBR that I need to get to by the end of the year. So kind of like those are also a priority. Water break. On to the final question, which is favourite video you've posted so far this year. Timer starting now. I can think of 3. In terms of like, I was just really proud of how I edited this video. I want to say my spring TBR. I don't know why that video that I posted just makes me so happy when I go back and watch it. I didn't read all the books in that TBR, but that's absolutely fine. I just really enjoyed how I edited that video, and I just felt like I gave off my personality. I must have just been in a really good mood when I filmed that video. Another one in the same scope, just really happy with how it came together, how I edited it, and it just kind of like really kind of like summed up my editing style, is my first ever weekly vlog that I posted this year. I'll link all these videos down below if you want to go check them out. And in terms of just like good memories, obviously my book shopping video that I did with Chloe and Emily when I went up to visit Chloe at the end of April. I'm really happy with how that video came out as well, just because it kind of holds so many memories for me. So that's one of my favourite videos I posted this year as well. 4 seconds to spare. 3, 2, 1. And finally, my camera battery's dying, which is why I did a quick fire. And finally, I just want to kind of like, overall, how's my reading gone this year? It's been a bit rocky to say. I've definitely had some ups and downs with mini reading slumps, with big reading slumps. And as you can see from my charts I'm going to put on screen, from my amount of books I've read per month and the amount of pages I've read per month, it's been very up and down throughout the entire year so far. I've had good months and I've had really bad months. And I think that just kind of like sums up where I am in my life right now. I love reading. I want it to be part of my daily life. I wish it could take more of a priority, but there are other things sometimes that take priority and reading kind of falls to the wayside. So I just think I'm just constantly going to have a rocky reading relationship in terms of like how much I manage to read per month. It just really depends on how busy I am. But overall, in terms of the like book quality that I've had, the majority of my pie chart is 3.5 and 4-star reads, which I'm not complaining about. I've read some amazing books so far this year that I haven't featured in today's video, but just know that I'm having such a good reading year. When I am picking up books and I am reading them, I'm rating them really highly in my personal opinion. I don't tend to rate many 5 stars, so 3.5 and 4 tend to be very well kind of like recommended books for me, and anytime I rate those books that sort of rating, that means a personal recommendation to me, and I personally would recommend you check them out. So overall, that is my mid-year book tag, reading stats, etc. I really hope you enjoyed this kind of like quick fire way of doing it, and let me know in the comments down below what your favourite book of the year has been so far. I would love to know. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up and subscribe down below to see future content from me. I do anything from weekly reading vlogs, monthly TBRs, monthly wrap-ups, any other book content you can think of. I usually have it on the channel, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.